Hi everyone. Good evening. Hello, hello. I hope everyone is doing well. We are being joined tonight by Dr. Laura for a special book chat. I see her now, so I'm going to grab her. Oh, it's nice to see everyone. See if that's going to work. Oh, you never know with you. Yay! Hi.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
It's so nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Can you hear me? Well, I don't have a mic on me or anything.
Same. Yes, I can hear you wonderful. It's so nice to see
Okay.
everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Dr. Laura, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you for
Um,
having me.
oh my gosh, of course, yes. It's so wonderful to see you in real
In
life-ish.
real life. Yeah,
Fingers
it
crossed,
is.
we're good tech-wise.
We will be.
Yes, yes. So I want to do a quick introduction for those of you that don't know me. My name is Zera. Everybody calls me Z. I am the founder of Compass Collective Books, which is a small but mighty independent bookshop and book community. The core mission behind what we do is connecting through community, culture, and connection, and kind of using that as a tool to help us sort of get these little moments of mindfulness and healing throughout our day through literature and through books. So your
Right.
work is, you know, very much on time right now.
Thank you.
But yeah, so welcome. Can you tell us, for those folks that may not be familiar with your work, can you tell us a little
Yes.
bit about yourself and sort of the why and the passion behind your work?
Okay, well, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Laura Eustache Zamor. I am a board certified doctor of naturopathy, and I'm a certified holistic health practitioner. In plain speak, what that means is I am a teacher of the body. So in my work, I educate my clients on the 11 systems of the body, on prevention, on wellness, lifestyle counseling, and preventative care. And I do this through different types of non-invasive assessments. So number one being iridology, which is looking at the patterns of the iris and seeing what are the strengths, the imbalances, and the weaknesses. And so it's really a way to create an individualized approach to wellness and for rebalancing the body to bring it back into homeostasis. I also work with herbalism, so I have an apothecary. It's called Kaigun Apothecary. It's named after my beloved grandmother Tigun, who came from Leogan, Haiti. So if anybody's Haitian here, that's what it's from. And so I make teas, I make tinctures, really about bringing nutritive sources to the body. So tonics, things that are really just supporting the body and bringing it back from either fatigue or overwhelm, exhaustion. And really, the apothecary focuses on postpartum care. And so this is one of the questions I always get. Do you only focus on moms? I work with everyone, but my niche or my focus is in postpartum care and recovery. One of the other aspects of naturopathy is doing group work and teaching seminars and things of that nature. Really just about educating because we don't have a lot of intimate care with the systems of the body and doing that in a way where it's non-invasive. So I may educate a client on different non-invasive approaches like acupressure, reflexology. You might have heard of hydrotherapy, cranial sacral therapy, Reiki. So different ways to bring the body from a more somatic approach and bringing it back into balance. This could be on a physical level where you have like tissue and chronic issues going on, imbalances. It could just be something in the auric field or the spiritual body, and it can be something in the mental body. It could be all three. But this type of health care is really about individualized approach, non-invasiveness, and prevention. So that's a little bit about what I do. I work with clients virtually through my virtual practice. And the book itself, or my passion, really comes from self advocacy and really about the human story, the human feature piece behind a lot of the statistics. Like we hear about maternal mortality and things of that nature, but like really putting a face to the problem or a face to the experiences, a face to some of the generational issues that we might be going through, especially as mothers coming into the maternal space. You know, if you're hailing from different, you know, cultures, backgrounds, workspaces, things of that nature, but really self advocacy, self compassion, and being seen, like eradicating elements of shame. Because I think that a lot of times when we go through different traumas, we will internalize them, and then it'll show up in our physical bodies, you know, manifestations in different types. So that's a little bit about me and what I do and what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, and I think that's so wonderful because even now, we talk a little bit about this sort of generation of millennials and how this is where we need to do work is we need to kind of get better about self-advocacy and things like that. And so that's really powerful and how you're
Mhm.
wording that, particularly like
Yes.
putting a face to it, it makes it much more, tangible.
Yes,
And
digestible. Yes.
yeah, for sure,
Recognizable
absolutely.
too.
Yeah, and it's true. Like sometimes if society has sort of given us this notion of, you are not meant to, you should always go with the flow, let's,
Right.
under the radar, then it can be really difficult to
Yeah.
advocate for yourself. And you talk about that a lot in the book as well. I'm wondering, was there a particular, because I know that you've been through your life's journey, you've been in some field of being a helping professional, right?
Yes. Yes.
Was there any, or can you share with us? I don't want to give too much away,
Okay.
but can you share with us if there was sort of a pivotal experience or experiences that you've had in your life that sort of took you into this sort of niche that you are in now, of
Yeah.
empowering mothers and kind of dedicating your work to this?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a powerful question because I was a resident assistant in almost 20 years ago, right? But being a resident assistant was one of the most pivotal moments for me, especially throughout my collegiate experience, because when it comes to self-advocacy, you really have to be empathetic as well because you are being a witness to other people's, I don't want to use the word perils, but really their most intimate experiences. So leadership is like one way of looking at that experience, but also standing in the gap or being an advocate or being a
Mm,
witness to other people's circumstances and not placing judgment, not assuming like, why is a student going through suicide ideation? What's the backstory? It's not just drugs or alcohol, but there may be, at that time, I would not have categorized it as like an imbalance, you know, or toxins in the system as I would now. But at that time as an RA, it was more or less being a listening ear and being non-judgmental eyes, and then being an advocate between that student and then the sources of support that they needed. And then really being a safeguard to help them get through that. So that was like one of the first markers of my experience where I was like, okay, I had intentions of being one particular type of professional, right? Like I'm a writer through and through. Like on campus, I was writing for the newspaper. But what I was learning was the feature story. It's not just the facts, the figures, the numbers. It
mhm,
is the faces that represent these experiences. And so for me, moving from being an RA, you know, and doing things in terms of leadership, becoming an RD now, you know, being responsible for over 500 students at any given time, witnessing, you know, sexual assault issues and I wouldn't use date rape, but like really powerful things, eating disorders. And how do you stand in the gap? How do you witness without being judgmental? How do you put yourself in the position wherein that you're not carrying people's burdens necessarily, because that's easy to happen when you're a helping professional, but really learning the different ways that help can be administered. Sometimes it's just a good word. Like I had a student, I'll never forget her, where she just wanted to come in my office and paint her nails. And that was witnessing her. It
mhm,
wasn't giving her tons of information. So like those were the different types of experiences that I had in college where, or throughout my journey rather, that wove those little, you know, um, the needle for me, rather, that this was going to be a part of my life's vocation. But this moving into motherhood and focusing this niche on naturopathy, it became through my own births. And it was like baptism by fire, you know, where I come from a lineage of women who did not have children like
Hmm.
that. And working through those generational issues of mothering, of, you know, child loss and grief and separation, things that are some in some circles considered shameful, or like, were you guys not praying to God hard enough, or things that can really elicit shame.
Hmm.
And so for me, even in my own lineage, I talk about that in both books, is the fact that I want to say I'm blessed to have two children, but it really cost me my life nearly to have them. And so navigating things like a master's program and a gestational condition like hyperemesis gravidarum, which no one heard of at the time except for like Princess Kate on TV, and having, you know, chairs in my department, not understanding what a gestational condition is, not believing that as a woman of color, a Black woman, that I deserved rest, that I needed to take time off,
Hmm.
and that there were, educational resources in place for me to do so, not being privy to that information, being shamed after losing almost 20 pounds in my first trimester, right? And being asked questions like, am I using drugs, or what's the background? So again, witnessing.
Hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter how much education you have, it doesn't matter what socioeconomic background you come from, but these experiences can be part of your life. And so for me, being able to speak to that, and even witnessing my own discomfort, right? Like, who goes through these types of things and wants to now write about it? But I felt like there was a deep, deep calling within, that that's a responsibility and part of my work.
Hmm.
And in conversation with women all over, these are the responses that I'm getting. Like, I feel seen, or wow, like I didn't know that that happened to you too, because these are things that are so taboo, for lack of a better, you know, expression.
I know that you felt called to share your story, and that it would resonate with others in writing it, because it is very, very difficult, the things that you're writing about. Did
Yes.
Was it healing for you? Did you find that it helped you get through the darkness into the other side of things?
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I think any writer, like if there's anyone listening to us tonight, like who's thinking about, either a memoir, or, contextualizing your experiential wisdom, I say go for it. But I also say create space for yourself, because you will need it. You will need to grapple with the aspects of, what do I share? What's worth exposing? And I think that there is, like I would like to say, like, spiritual guidance that can, coax you on when too much is too much.
Mm.
Obviously there's more technical aspects, like, editors and things of that nature, but still trusting your intuition and trusting the why. Like, you asked me, what's my why behind this? What's the why behind the work?
Mhm.
So for me, it was about demystification, right? We're talking finances, we're talking, early marriage, you were talking difficulty with accepting maybe not having any more children because of a violation through birth. You're looking at so many different intimate things. And so for me, it was very healing. But what I'm saying is that you feel what is necessary to share. You work through what's necessary to share, and you take yourself out the way. That was
Mhm.
my experience. Like, you just take yourself out the way because you know somebody can resonate with it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, Something else that you said, I want to circle back to real quick, about witnessing. I
Hmm.
read something recently, and it's about maternal instinct, irregardless of gender, but let's say there's a maternal instinct.
Yes.
And the passage said that the, a mothering
Hmm.
is standing in the gap. And that's what that is. A lot of what mothering is, right, is in that in between, in that known and unknown. There's some things
Yes.
as a mother you have to just
Trust.
bear witness to. You
You
have to
gotta do.
trust and
Yes.
witness. And I thought it was so interesting, because now with your work being, with mothers and things like that. Now this is actually your second book.
Yes. Yes.
How was the process different? Did you find that it was easier in a way to do the whole mother method after doing your memoir?
Actually, that's such a great question. It wasn't easier. I feel like because there's such different works, there's a thematic connection between the two of them, wherein that the first one was really laying out a particular journey, right? So there is no, I always tell people, like with memoir, you're not instructing people on what to do through X problem,
Mhm.
right? You are just telling a very poignant part of your story that you know has a message. Like for me with the Audacity to Finish, it was really about resiliency. It's about self-acceptance through cultural implications. So that was a lot easier for me, as grueling as some of the material is, but it felt cathartic. With the Whole Mother Method, it was still difficult because for me, it was reckoning the fact that this is like a birth issue that, or a birthing issue that so many people go through, but making sure every step of the way that they could resonate with the method,
Mhm.
that this was something practical. Like you don't have to know anything about holistic health. You don't have to know anything about your body, but you could be able to follow through. So for me, writing that, it was very much about not only making you feel seen, but making sure the more technical aspects, right? Because there's a different type of responsibility there when you're doing a how-to. And so both were healing in both respects, but it was a very different process for both.
Something that I want to get to, because I think it would be really, I wanted there, the book is chock full of recommendations, tips.
Yes.
I don't want to use the word hacks, but but it's full of,
Yes.
information that is helpful. If you could pick your time, I know it's probably very difficult
Hmm.
because of the breadth within the book. If you could pick
Yes.
your top three tips that you could give any mother, whether you're acutely postpartum, whether you have teenagers,
Right.
tweens, school age,
Right.
what are the three practical things that you could tell us that we could sort of implement
Right
tomorrow,
away.
right away?
Okay. So the first thing is remember your breath. You carry it everywhere you go. Like, I don't think we recognize that. And that's not something that's celebrated in our culture because it's so simple. Like a breath, what's the big deal about a breath? But really, you are nourishing your lungs. And we have two meridians in the body that work together, the lung meridian and the large intestine. And these meridians become blocked or experience blockages when we carry grief. And um, when we inhale and exhale appropriately, when we respirate is what I want to say properly, we are aiding the body without even having to do much or anything in releasing that grief because it's happening on a cellular level, it's happening on a chemical level. The body needs oxygen. So I would always recommend to a mom, no matter where you are, I had a 4-minute breathwork challenge that I did through newsletter subscribers, and we do it every seasonal change because we're navigating different seasons and things change for us as mothers. So remember your breath. You can be in the car in the pickup line waiting for your, you know, high school senior who's about to do all these applications, or, you're now going to be a senior mom or whatever, but you can be in the car and just for 4 minutes, breath in, breath out. Feel your body, become connected to your body through the power of the breath. The second thing I would say is do not forget to eat. A lot of us live on caffeine, and caffeine cuts appetite. Like, I know when it's 4 o'clock and your kidney meridians and you're slumped and you're tired, or you're just drudging, moving. If for my working moms who are leaving one job to go home to do the second job and you're feeling exhausted, what do? We go grab that cup of coffee.
Hmm.
And I'm not shaming anybody because I love me a good cup of coffee, but at the same time, we need to eat. We need to nourish the body. Whether if you're outside and you're like, well, doesn't naturopathy say you can't eat anything? Not true. Eat something nourishing. If it's a sandwich, get greens in the sandwich. Create balance. So I would always advocate for moms to eat and eat well. And then the last thing is stop comparing yourself to other people.
Mm.
And I think it's hard,
Mm.
but that's like the reevaluate part of the method is like you are bombarded at any given moment with messages and images nonstop. And many of these people are not in the same season of life that you're in. And so we have to remember as mothers, like what is posted for one day, that doesn't mean it's going to be the same in like the next 6 weeks of your life. Things change like every 60 minutes, every day. There's something that's new that's posted that has nothing to do with your real waking life.
Hmm.
And so I think it's really important that we stop comparing ourselves with other people, right? Like my newsletter for Mother's Day was like, so many people were posting where they went and what they ate and what they did. And I'm like, I slept all day, and if that's what I needed, that's what I needed. I'm going to celebrate that. I'm not going to feel like my friends have it better than me,
Mm,
or that mom across the street, I'm looking at her balcony, it's full of flowers, and I didn't, we got to stop comparing.
mhm.
I think that's that millennial thing that I hint at or drive home in the book is like this exposure with comparison and what we think we know about other people and how that's supposed to be like reflected in our own personal lives. So I think that's the top three immediate things that I would recommend to any mom, regardless of what stage of the journey they're on.
Okay, so I want to revisit a few of those things. So the first
Okay.
one, when is it? So and correct me if I'm going to say it back. Let me know if I'm capturing what you are hoping. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that. Hopefully not.
Something's going on my side too. It's New York, so sorry about that, guys, in advance.
Um, is okay. So we see the highlight reel, right? And
Yes.
we feel a type of way from that highlight reel. I didn't
Yes.
get X, Y, and Z. I did this, this, and this, but we need to detach because that is not reality. So
That's not our reality.
that is
Yes.
not our reality. Be where your feet are. What is in front of us? What do we have? Um, so detaching from that sort of
Yes.
false narrative that really is not applicable to us in our daily lives.
Right. Right. Yes. And even still, I want to say too, Z, like, think about the travel culture, right?
Hmm.
Um, I have a lot of friends who like to travel. I love to travel as well. But when you're in motherhood, we tend not to want to talk about this, but there is a level of sacrifice that's involved. And there may be a season in your life where you are not jet setting, and it's okay, right? That doesn't mean that you're living a boring life. That doesn't mean that things are not good at home. It's not your season. And
Hmm.
I think that we have lost touch with the idea of what time really is. Again, going back to the Instagram or whatever social media app you're using, is that 24 hours looks very different on the internet, where many of us are spending our time every day, either for work or for these engaging conversations such as this. So we're not downplaying that, but its role in our life. And for the book, like if you're healing from something like C-section birth trauma, you're trying to get your body to a place of homeostasis. And so when we're sitting and absorbing these things, you are creating so much internal, I don't want to say chaos, but really that's what you're doing.
Hmm.
And those internalizations lead to inflammation, right? So we see a lot of different, what's the word, domino effects of just by what we're looking at. We're eating food, right? With that part of eating, we're scrolling and eating, and we see something that somebody put or whatever, automatically you're disrupting your liver meridian health because you're getting upset. You're internalizing it. And you now realize, like, oh, I have a pain here, or oh, I have gas, or oh, I'm belching now. Because the process of chewing the food, savoring what's in your mouth, swallowing it, all of that is now disrupted. Now, I'm not telling you that you can't scroll, and I'm not taking you out of the context of reality, but it's really paying attention to your reality,
Hmm.
right? You will have that time again. You will flourish. And I think that was the part of the book that I really wanted to drive in, is like, we need to look at the broken pieces, look at them, pay attention to them, what they need, and how long do we need them for.
Hmm.
Because for some women, 6 weeks might be good and gravy, and for some women, it might be 6 years.
Hmm.
It might be. And that doesn't mean that you don't have good quality care or whatever the case may be, but your body is different than someone else's.
Hmm.
Your environment is different than someone else's. Someone who might be living in a state where it's sunny all the time and you have the palm trees, versus someone who's living in New York. And there's trains and there's EMF and there's all these different things is going to impact your healing process way more differently. How do we make space for both realities and not kick ourselves? How do we do
Hmm.
that? So it comes from just paying attention to those tiny details that really make up in every day, like a 24-hour period, to say.
I love that. I love that. Paying attention to our reality. And I really, so the seasons, that's so funny. It's very in alignment because it's something that I've been sitting with recently too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so true. People often will say, not as a, sometimes there's certain seasons in mothering that are very difficult. And oh, well,
Yes.
this too, or, savor it because once they get older,
Right.
it's going to, and sometimes it's hard to hear when you're in the thick of it, right?
Yes. Yes.
But when I use the reframing of this is the season that I'm in, it's
Mm-hmm.
fleeting. and then
Hmm.
there's going to
Yeah.
be another season where this is going to happen. It does help to sort of with perspective, I think, for
Yes.
sure. One other thing I want to circle back to is this, because I think this is also very, even if you are, whether you're a working mom or not, but it's that shift between first and second shift, or like,
Yes.
okay, I'm
Yes.
leaving, I'm going to my second shift. um, what is, let's say, so I know you've said eating something, so you're saying eating
Yes.
something like at that, it's like, that 4 o'clock is, we're
Right.
grabbing something then, or is it, can we do something else, or
Well,
is there breath,
absolutely. I
is there
mean,
something else if that's not an option?
absolutely. Like there is an acupressure point right here, right? It's like the general acupressure point. So, for instance, you can be again like moving through whatever time frame that you're in. You can actually just and you're feeling malaise, right? You can just press this point right here, and again work with your breath. And anywhere around here that feels sensitive or tender, that is a nerve point. That is letting you know it's a general point, but it's letting you know that there is somewhere in the body that there's tension. And simply just being present with that point, gently massaging, applying some gentle pressure, whether it's a headache that's starting to come on, whether it's, you've been wearing heels all day long and you are experiencing spinal issues just from your feet, rubbing that point, just being present with yourself. That's a great way to not invasively self-correct, right? You don't, and it's that you want to know what your options are. So for instance, for some people they're very sensitive, and taking things, right? I'm using my language very appropriately, but taking certain things can make them more sick. And so for some instance, they do not want to express that that's what's happening, but they don't know what other options that they have.
Hmm.
Or within their family circles, something like Reiki is like, what's that? Like, what you getting into? So having the understanding that these are different ways to bring calm back to your body. These are different things that you can do to alleviate having a really bad conversation with somebody 20 minutes ago. These are things you can actually do,
Hmm.
right? You can. Another thing that I always tell moms is like using herbs, using things like chlorophyll, things that are natural. And I say natural, but also organic if it's possible, wherever possible, right? Using things that are safe, because we do know that there's not everything natural is safe. So we want to make sure that people are aware of that, but just paying attention. And so maybe you've been drinking water and you've been really focusing on hydration, but maybe you have some intestinal issues. Like every time you think about that one thing, your tummy gets queasy
Hmm.
or you start to have gas. Sorry, there's some flatulence going on because the nutrients are not being properly assimilated into the body, just like the experience you're grappling with.
Mm.
So, like understanding the aspects of the body in a way where it matches with the emotions and what to do with it. So maybe while you're in the car, or maybe you're at the bus stop, or whatever the case, you're at your desk at home, you're working from home, having a little chlorophyll in your water daily. One little habit that you can incorporate that is on a physical level that's going to impact the mind, the emotions, and everything as well.
Okay, I love this tip. This is very, listen, we can do this anywhere, anytime.
Anywhere,
Um, I
anytime.
love that.
Anywhere, anytime.
I love that. Is there a way that you can give us a, you know, for tapping? I know you go into tapping very in depth in the book, but um, is there something that you could give us that's similar to this, like a technique that we could do if we're in the car or we just have a couple minutes?
Hmm. Well, here in this area, like, so here is your heart right here, and above it is where the thymus sits, right? And your heart is the biggest vibrational center of the body. And so anytime you are feeling anything, you can always start with the heart. And if you're not able to go through the whole tapping process of starting here,
Hmm.
going here, going here, going here, going here, going here, you can always just start by stimulating your thymus gland,
Okay.
stimulating your thymus gland. And what that does is it raises the vibration of your heart, so that gives you energy, and also it protects your immune system. So again, for women who are moving through grief, right, you're just overwhelmed with grief. Simple tapping of the thymus gland, simple activation of this right here. You may not feel it immediately, but that's the beauty of working with naturopathy and these non-invasive practices. Is it's it's kind of a self-responsibility. And someone, like you said earlier, it's like if you're healing from something or if you're navigating a season of motherhood, you don't want to hear that something else is now your responsibility, right? You don't want to have that added layer. But in the long term, it pays off. So sitting here and tapping and just affirming yourself, it's going to be okay. But you're literally, that touch to the body does what it's supposed to do. And so that's something really simple. So like in the book, I do give a guide in the back where you go through the reminder phrases, but whatever comes up in your heart, right? Like, I am angry. I'm really pissed today. I'm having a bad day, but you're tapping. The body knows. It's not like the body doesn't know. But we are in a culture that's so detached. Like, this is over here, your head's over here, your heart's over here, your reproductive organs are over there, and everything is together, right? So if we look at it from that vantage point, which is what I really worked on, helping readers to see themselves. So it's not just like the stories over here and the methods of really seeing how every day that you wake up, if some of you love essential oils, right? Really working with essential oils. And I know some people feel very differently about this in terms of like where they're sourced from and things of that nature. So you go with your intuition and what feels good. But essential oils are wonderful sources for getting into a parasympathetic state, changing your mood, being calm. So you can be wherever you are and you have a little essential oil depending on what it is that you need. So for instance, for some women, they're not grounded, right? From all of the mental, everything going on up here, they're disconnected. A little bit of frankincense on your pulse points, on the back of the neck, right? Like I talk to clients all the time about using lavender oil. It's a universal oil. You can just put it right here on the thymus gland. And it's both antiseptic. There's so many different properties that the oils have, so they're very multifaceted, right? Inhalation, I talk about that in the book. Inhalation is the quickest way where it goes into impacting the limbic system. So there's lots of different things that you can do. So many little hacks to your overall wellness, to your overall wellness, to feeling better and doing so in a way that is not taxing on the body. Because I think that's really important, especially when you're a mother, right? There's we want to escape this, but it's like that Saturnian lesson where this is the weight. This is, the area where we are graveling. It is a gravel.
Yeah.
I'm in a stage where my kids are 7 and 9 and I'm graveling every day. So I'm tapping all the time. Listen, I was tapping before we got on. So, being really understanding that it's not something alien. It's not something alien, but we have ways that we can navigate. We have ways that we can navigate because sometimes we're full and sometimes we're empty. Sometimes we're full and sometimes we're empty.
And I would just add that as mothers, it's really important to lean into our intuition,
Yes.
and to not, sometimes it's hard to do that because we feel like our intuition is a stranger.
Yes.
So coming back to that, it's leaning into that intuition, leaning into self-compassion.
Yes.
Some folks, again, culturally, that's seen as a little bit woo-woo or whatnot, but
Yeah.
self-compassion goes a long, long way. We are not alone in this journey of motherhood.
Right.
I can't thank you enough for all of again, this is just like a snippet of the amount of tips and recommendations and things like that within the book. I feel more equipped already for, for Carline tomorrow. I feel, ready on for many different dynamics. So thank you so much for sharing that
Thank
with
you.
us and spending, some of your evening with us. The whole Mother Method is available where books are sold.
Yes.
If you would like to support Compass Collective Books, this is available on our website.
Yes, it is.
You can also, it's in a few different collections. If you are looking for it, you're having trouble, you can always send me a message. I'm happy to send you a direct link directly to the book. So let me know if you would like to do that. Hit me up in the messages. I'm happy to send that along. Dr. Laura, anything else that you want to mention or that we didn't get to cover?
I just want to say thank you so much. Like, I really love the work that you're doing and seeing how, books and storytelling is something that is not far off. I really feel like people can see themselves. And I always say this because it's not just about mothers, but it's those who love us as well. That's something that I really wanted to touch on. Sometimes we can think, oh, that's just a book for moms, or I'm not a mom, or I'm not thinking about being a mom, or motherhood doesn't impact me. But, I was talking to my kids earlier today about community and about being a citizen and what respect means and what kindness means. And you may not have children, but your support, your love, your awareness, like today is Hyperemesis Gravidarm Awareness Day, and just being aware of what these conditions are and the way that you can show compassion and empathy and love, gifts or whatever the case may be. But when you see a woman or her family that's going through something, you're aware and you're able to bring support just by your awareness.
Mm.
So I really think that that's one of the core reasons, or my core passion, is to create an awareness. If just by reading the Whole Mother Method, and I really encourage you to grab your copy, I do. But if there's one thing that I want to leave everyone with, is that it helps you to understand the intimate. The thing that your neighbor is not going to come knock on your door and talk to you about.
Mm-hmm.
They're not telling you. It's not because they don't want you to know, but it's kind of like it's taboo for them, or it's painful. It's searing at best. And so I really implore that seeing the stories and understanding what's happening with C-section birth trauma and understanding dynamics of power, and when we use words and we talk to people, or you'll be all right, or we use words that are part of empowerment speech, not understanding how that speech can impact the people that we love,
Mm-hmm.
or the people that we're in community with, our fellow citizens. So
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I will say and leave everyone with.
Thank you so much for that. That's vital. A great point. I mean, that's the ultimate flex is one of empathy and compassion
Yes.
and awareness. Um,
Yes.
for everyone that is here, we see you. We appreciate you. Keep going. You are not alone. Community does not have to be elusive to you. Um, but yes, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you for
work. I'm
having
such
me.
a fan. And yes, this was lovely.
Thank you.
Everybody, tap in. We're all going to be walking around the streets like this.
That's right.
We have our tools.
Warming up our thymus and being healthy and
Yes,
being loved and feeling love from within. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. All right. Blessed night, everyone. Thank you so much for tapping in. Dr.
Bye,
Laura, thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.